Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This problem is talking about how we can show that an equation that is given to us, how can we show that it represents a circle? Okay, so here's the equation. So it's in two variables, x and y. So here's the equation: 5x squared plus 5y squared plus 10x. Take away y equals 0. So it's certainly not obvious that that would be a a circle. So let me have a little discussion here. If you've seen any of my other videos, you know that the way I like to do things is I like to have a discussion first. That helps clear my mind, that helps me organize myself. I recommend this as a technique. So the first thing I said to myself was, I said, gosh, I have no idea how to do this. I'm totally clueless. But I do remember one thing. I remember that the standard form of a circle is this. Okay, now there's a nuance here that I need you to pay attention to. This is a standard form, right? It's x and y are the variables. It's x subtract h. It's y subtract k. This symbol here is the operation of subtraction. You have to keep that straight in order to keep the signs lined up properly. If I were the king, I would change these symbols. It's very confusing. Sometimes this symbol right here, sometimes that means subtract, sometimes that means a negative sign. You have to be very cautious. In this context right here, it's x subtract h. It's the operation of subtracting. So it's x subtract h, quantity squared, y subtract k, quantity squared. The entire quantity squared equals r squared. That's the standard form of a circle. Now, from this standard form, we will know the center and the radius. The center is this hk. So now you see why it's so important to know that this is the operation of subtraction. Because suppose you have, at the very end, suppose we have x plus 3, okay? Well, you have to put it in this format. It's not going to be x plus 3, it would be x subtract a negative 3. If you don't do it that way, you're going to screw things up when it comes to the center, okay? All right, so from this standard form, we will know the center and the radius. The center will be h comma k, that'll be your x, that'll be your y. So it'll be h comma k, and the radius is r, not r squared, it's r. So let's go ahead and, okay, here we go. So our task then is to write in the standard form, and then we will know everything we want to know. So what do? We first group the x terms, and then we group the y terms. Now, what's our motivation for that? Well, I mean, how else would we do it, right? I mean, right up here in our standard form, we see what we got. We got all the x's and we got the y's. So we're going to group everything. And then after we group the x terms and we group the y terms, we're going to do what's called complete the square within each grouping. Now, that's a little bit, I can't do all of that. I can't do complete the square in this video. That's a whole separate video, and I'll try to do one as soon as I can. But I'll show you, at least on this example, how to complete the square. Okay, so let's go. Here's what we started with. Blah, blah, blah equals 0. I'm going to group the x's. Here's an x's, here's x's, here's y's, here's a y. Okay, so we're going to do this completing the square stuff. We're going to do that on a separate paper. And here's what we get. Okay, and we'll see that in just a minute. So we get the following. Now, see my scratch paper. It's at the end. What we get, now you got to see on this, all of this right here comes straight down. All of this right here comes straight down. And what do we get? We get this. We get blah, blah, blah. 5 times x plus 1 quantity squared. Take away 5. Over here, we have the same concept. 5 times blah, blah, blah. Well, gosh, we're getting close, right? It kind of looks like the x minus h quantity squared, x minus k quantity squared. We're getting close, right? So let's go ahead and make it look more like what we want, okay? Let's move a few things around. So let's move a few things around. Let's put this negative 5 and this negative 120. Let's put that over here, and we'll see what happens. So we put that over here, okay? And then on this left-hand side, this is the left-hand side. We'll just leave that alone for right now. Just bring that straight down. Over here on the right-hand side, 5 plus 1 over 20. Well, 5 is the same as 100 over 20. and 100 over 20 plus 1 over 20 is 101 over 20. So that's my right-hand side, okay, so far anyway. Then I've got this. I bring that straight down, and I'll tell you what, I don't like this 5 here. In my original standard form, I didn't have a coefficient in the front here, so let me get rid of it. There's a 5 here and a 5 here. Let me just multiply both sides, the left-hand side and the right-hand side. Let me multiply it by 1/5. That'll get rid of this 5. That'll get rid of this 5. And what do I have left? Boom, I have this. And over here on the right-hand side, I have 1/5 times the 101 over 20, 1/5 times 1 over 5 times 101 over 20. 1 times 1 is 101. 5 times 20 is 100. That makes abundant sense, right? Over here on the left-hand side, I am so close. I am so close. I have x plus 1 quantity squared plus y minus 1/10 quantity squared. Very, very close. But close is not perfect, all right? It's not exactly the standard form. The x plus 1, I need to write that as x subtract quantity negative 1. Now I'm in the standard form, okay? And over here, I was already in the standard form. So what does this tell me? This is the standard form of the equation. It's the equivalent equation. This is equivalent to what we started with. And the reason it's equivalent is because I've done legal stuff to everything. I've added, I've subtracted, I've done I've done what I needed to do to get into this format. So now when I'm in this format, I can easily tell you what the center is. The center is h, comma, k. So that's the negative 1 and 1/10. You see that? Negative 1 and 1/10, because I'm in the standard format. 1 subtract h. H is 1/10. Boom, there it is. Or I'm sorry, h is negative 1. There it is. K is 1/10. And there it is. The radius is the square root of this right here. So it's the square root of this. So that gives me a big old happy face, because I now have shown that this is a circle, and I've told you what the important characteristics are. Okay, so now that was magic, right? I came up with that, that stuff there, that we needed. Well, where did that come from? Well, okay, it's not really magic. Okay, so here's how I get there. I'm going to do them one at a time. So let's do on scratch paper. This is part of your math learning experience, is learning how to get organized. Okay, so this guy right here, and then this guy right here. Let me do him first, and then I'm going to do him. And then once I have both of those done, I just plug them in, and I have what I need. Okay, so let's bounce down here. This is going to be called, this is called completing the square. And as I say, that's a whole different topic. I'm going to have to, one of these days, I'll try to do a video on that as well. Okay, so 5x squared plus 10x. What do? I'm going to factor the 5 out. That gives me x squared plus 2x. And now the completing the square part. This is the part, this is where the magic happens, okay? As I say, I can't do I got to do a separate video on this, but kind of bear with me here. X squared plus 2x, that's inside these parentheses here. This 5 is just sitting outside here. I'm ignoring him for the time being. I just bring him along each step of the way. So x squared plus 2x, do you see that that's the same as x plus 1 quantity squared take away 1? Well, let me convince you. What's x plus 1 quantity squared? X plus 1 quantity squared is x squared plus 2 times x times 1. Okay, there it is, x squared plus 2 times x, okay, plus 1 squared. Oh my goodness, this term right here has a little bit too much. It has x plus 1 quantity squared is x squared plus 2x plus 1. Okay, so I cannot say that it's equal. However, I'm in charge here. Okay, I'm the boss. So I can write this down, and then I can subtract the 1. If I subtract the 1, now this entire expression right here is indeed equal to this expression. That's the magic. It's inside these parentheses, so it's the 5 just sits outside. Okay, so now that I've got this equal to this, so this is equal to this, now I'm going to multiply it out. So it's 5 times this first term, there it is, and then 5 times the -1, which is -5. So here's my final result. This right here, if you pound this out, if you multiply this out, you will see that this right here is exactly equal to this. And the reason we're doing this is because this, as we saw a moment ago, is very, very close to what I need to make this standard form of the circle. Okay, so now let's do the other one. The other one is a little bit harder. 5y squared take away y. Okay, first part's easy peasy. I just pull the 5 out. 5 comes out of this first term, so it's 5 times y squared take away. Well, wait a second. Where did this 1/5 come from? Well, it came there because, again, I'm the boss here. I can do anything I want. If I want to pull a 5 out of this, by golly, I'm going to pull a 5 out of this. All I have to do is put a 1/5 here to make it equal. See this equal sign? As long as I did not violate the equal sign, I'm good. So 5 times 1/5 y is indeed equal to y. There's a 1 here. We don't usually write it, but it's y is the same as 1 times y. So 5 times 1/5 y is 1 times y. So you can't argue with this being equal to this. It is indeed equal to that. This is equal to this. Okay, so again, I do the same trick. I use the square brackets. That's my own personal preference. That way I keep track of things and I remind myself, hey, what's inside the square bracket? That's my own little world here I'm working on. So now this guy right here, I'm going to complete the square. So it's the same as always. I take half of this coefficient, so half of 1/5, that's 1/10. So it's y subtract half of this, so y subtract 1/10, okay, quantity squared. So what does that give me? Y take away 1/10 squared is y squared. Take away 2 times y times 1/10, that's the 1/5 y. But oh my goodness, I have a little bit too much. I have 1/10 squared extra. So that's fine. I'm in charge. I'm the boss. I subtract the 1/10 squared, which is 1/100th, okay? So that's why this is equal to this. All right, so now I play the same trick. I multiply 5 times this first term. There it is. 5 times a -1/100th. So that's 5 over 100. 5 over 100 is 1 over 20. So there it is. That's the final result that I wanted. And that's exactly, this is my scratch paper. So I put a square around it so I keep track of things. This is exactly what I took after I worked out on the scratch paper. That's what I put up here when I said use this, see the scratch paper, and then I got this, okay? I'm sorry that's a little bit messy, but I was in a hurry, okay? All right, so I hope that helped. Write this out. Do not just read my papers. Do not read my examples and think that you know what you're doing just because you understand what I'm doing. I swear it's exactly like playing the piano. You can watch me play the piano for 20 hours a day for a month. It does not make you a piano player. You have to do these problems yourself. Write them out and make sure you understand every step. And just use my example as a crutch to get you over the hard parts. Okay, thank you, and I hope this helped.